coast, and then like in the middle of California, they open up again and they go back to Japan. So this guy said, hey, we have this tuna, going through here. We got to do something. So in 1997, he got the first permit, federal permit in federal Mexican waters by Cedros Island, right at the middle of the peninsula on the Pacific side. So he failed, and he failed because of the logistics. He didn't, think that it was too far. It was on an island.
Right.
How do you get the feed? That is the main object of the tuna farming is the fresh sardine that we have in Baja. That is the best in the world. Protein, oil content, fat content. Our sardine, number one. So we had the feed, we had the tuna. But he started over there, so he failed. But then in 2000, Mitsubishi, as a Japanese company that is a huge corporation that we all know, they have they divide in units, and Mitsubishi has 6 units worldwide. Like Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, and then they have Living Essentials unit, and that Living Essentials is everything related to food. So Mitsubishi comes into Ensenada in year 2000, and he looks at this opportunity of bluefin tuna farming. So they start by themselves. They hire a lawyer in Tijuana, and they start the business. They do the company. They put together a corporation. And in 2002, they were having a lot of problems because they didn't have the relations with the federal government and these federal waters, and they wanted to lease the tuna vessels, and they couldn't find any tuna vessels. So they did a little research on the region. Who can help me?
I know where this is going.
So then, they ask here and they ask there, and they talk to people related to the fishing industry in Mexico, and they said, hey, go talk to Matias Arjona. So one day I get a call from a Korean guy, Mr. Lee, and Mr. Sakagami, a Japanese guy from Mitsubishi, and they say the Korean guy speaks Spanish. So I said, hey, Mr. Arjona, I want to have a meeting with you. We come from Mitsubishi, and we're going to start, we are starting tuna farming in Ensenada. So fine. So we set up the meeting. They come into my office, and they just talk to me, and they share all the project that they had, this huge investment from Mitsubishi, and a sister company of Mitsubishi that is called Toyo Reiso, that this company controls more than 50% of the fresh tuna worldwide.
Wow.
So there we are. Like a month after that meeting, I am working with them as a consultant first. So I started to fix all the errors that they had. They had errors in the constitution of the corporation, and they have errors on administration, and they had errors on the guys that they were talking to lease the tuna vessels. So then...
Let me stop you here really fast, because you're touching on something that is... again, for listeners that are interested in all things Baja, there are some that definitely have visions of starting some sort of a business here, and you're bringing up some valid things just in general, not necessarily related to the tuna business, but of when you come to the country, just like in any country where you go to do business, there are formalities and regulations and steps that need to be taken, and so often you hear stories of those proper steps not being taken. And I just want to take this moment to encourage anybody that is listening here, if you are a foreigner and wanting to come to Mexico and start a business, make sure you find, like Mitsubishi did, found somebody that understood their industry and also understood the Mexican business rules and laws to get things started the right way, because I would imagine here that Mitsubishi spent a lot of money to get things squared away in the beginning, and without having done it from the beginning with you or somebody like you, there were some costly mistakes that were made.
They had huge mistakes.
Yeah.
And one of the mistakes almost cost them the corporation.
Yeah.
Already started. Because they were told by a law firm that they, as a foreign company, they could not be investors in aquaculture or offshore mariculture, like we call it.
Right.
So for aquaculture and mariculture in Mexico, the company can be 100% foreign investors. So they almost lost the company. And we had a huge litigation in 2003.
Wow.
And I ran all that litigation. And I put everything back together for them. So it was very interesting. And, like in every country, there's crooks.
Yeah.
And in Mexico, there's some of them.
Yeah.
Not everybody.
No.
But there are some of them. And there's huge corporations that come into Mexico. They don't go with the right people. And then they get screwed.
Yeah.
So, and then another opportunity that I saw there in the 2002 is lots of investors from Asia, from the U.S. want to come into Baja to invest in many...
Anything, yeah. There's lots of opportunities.
Lots of opportunities. And so I started a company, a advising company, and we do foreign investors, mainly from Asia, that want to come into the fishing, aquaculture, offshore aquaculture business into Baja, and we set them up.
Very interesting.
Another opportunity.
So let's go back to the tuna rings again, because I'm just fascinated by them, and I really want to get into some of the nitty-gritty technical or data parts of it. Mm-hmm. When I look out there and see those floating rings in the bay, what's the circumference of them, just to start with? Like how far across are one of those rings? Are they a couple 100 feet, couple 100 yards?
They are 50-meter diameter by 40-meter depth in netting. And it has an anchorage system of 8 anchors for each tuna pen. Okay, so this anchor system is really, really very interesting to see. We draw them like a architectural drawing.
Yeah.
And there's a 2-ton concrete block in the bottom of the ocean, and there's chain, and there's an anchor, 2,000 or 1-ton anchor, and then chains up to the cage. So that's 8 of those for each pen.
Per ring, wow.
So we have the company that I work for, because Mitsubishi got out in 2009. Mitsubishi stepped out as a stockholder.
Huh.
Because they were having a lot of pressure as a worldwide company on the environment.
Yeah.
So they had to step out.
Right.
But we had an agreement with them to sell 50% of the production to this sister company, that is Toyo Reiso.
Okay.
So Dosui Group, another Japanese corporation from Mr. Takano, great guy, he took over the operation. And 9 companies started in 2002. And right now, only 2 alive.
Huh.
Okay? One that comes back from Australian investment, and then they fusion with Icelandic investors. And right now is 100% Icelandic investors.
So another thing that just is fascinating to me is and I think that it's eye-opening for somebody like myself who is so close to Mexico, but yet in so many ways so far away, to hear of all this foreign investment. And it shouldn't be surprising. I mean, the natural resources that are here, beyond just the aquaculture and fish and so on, but I mean, Baja and Mexico in general is this vast, vast place. It shouldn't be surprising at all that there is foreign investment coming from all over the world, but interesting to hear Iceland and so on.
Oh, we put together in 2017, we had the Offshore World Mariculture Congress workshop.
Wow.
In Ensenada. This Congress has taken place in Europe for 7 years. So I went to this workshop, and I said, hey, we got to bring this to Mexico. So we worked really hard on the government side, that we will go into that a little later.
Yeah.
And we started contacting this UK company that owns the rights of this offshore mariculture conference. And 2 years we worked together with them. They didn't want, they were not trusting, to get it out of Europe and bring it into America, and then to Mexico, and then to Baja, and then to Ensenada. So we did it. It was a big, huge challenge, a lot of effort to work with these UK people, but we brought it down, and it was a huge success. So that put Ensenada and Baja California on the world global map of opportunities for the offshore mariculture.
Right.
And already in Baja Peninsula, not only in Baja, but in Baja Sur also, this industry is booming.
Yeah.
And in the next 5 years, it's going to boom.
So let me ask you this, and again, I said we don't need to get into controversial areas, but there are people that are going to question, hey, how can this tuna farming be good, right? Without knowing all the details, and I tend to be very open-minded when it comes to having strong opinions about environment versus capitalism and all. I mean, we need all of it, right? And I think there's no argument that responsible consumption, responsible, reusable things when it's possible, all of that is good, but my general feeling towards businesses that are in, fish and game as an example, like there has to be science behind what you're doing to make sure that you're not depleting natural resources that keep the business in business. So my assumption is that there's some element of research that's being done to make sure that what is happening. I mean, you're farming fish, so you're taking some wild fish, and do you propagate them? Is that what's happening in the nets? Or are they reproducing? How does it work?
In Mexico, we go out and catch the fish.
And then you grow them.
Yeah, but when we started back in 2002, the Mexican government didn't knew anything about tuna farming.
Right.
No legislation, no nothing. So we had to work very close with the government and teach the government how to control the activity. We didn't have any quotas.
Right.
So now we went into the SIAT, and the SIAT is based out in La Jolla, California, and that is the association that works together with NOAA, and there's 16 countries that we see in SIAT, the Commission of Tropical Tuna, okay? And they set up the quotas now for all these countries that are in the Pacific Ocean.
So it's a third-party organization. It's not any one company, any one government.
But the decisions there are backed up by all these governments.
Right.
So the quota has been going like from 8, when we got into the SIAT, Mexico as a country, when we signed to be there, we had 8,000 tons of quota per year. Now we have 3,000 tons only. So we are really, really looking into the environmental issue, because tuna farming was overexploited in the Atlantic, and they closed the fishery for many years, like 6 years. Now it's back again. But in the Pacific side, it was also overexploited. So we had a yellow light there. So with this quota that all these 16 countries respect, the U.S. sits down, Japan sits down, Philippines, and all these countries, and we are really into bringing back the population of bluefin tuna.
Right.
So like you say, there's a lot of issues, and then the federal Mexican government that didn't have any legislation. We also are working very, very hard right now to get the first tuna farming regulation document. Okay, so we have done a lot of work with the government, because we wanna do the activity, but we have to be friendly with the environment.
Right.
And right now it has been very hard for the companies, because we have a very limited quota. 3,000 tons for 2 companies, when we used to farm 3,000 tons a year each company.
Right.
So it's like in my business,